So I decided to add to my first, my introduction video. Um, I'm here to give a raw account of getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's, in my case being single, so going through this living by myself, and um, being blessed enough to get the Kinsula infusion therapy that helps rid plaques, uh, amyloid plaques in your brain, which has been proven to uh, be a cause of some of the Alzheimer's symptoms. That's the best I can describe it. I may not be totally correct in how I word it, but this is kind of part two to my introductory one. Um, I told you my story and my aim, to just educate listeners who care to listen about my journey through the infusion therapy, which could be 18 months or sooner. We talked about the side effects and all of that in my first video. However, I do I did kind of want to bring up another reason for doing this infusion therapy, and not just for doing the infusion therapy, but for wanting to be kind of proactive, even for getting on YouTube. I've never made a YouTube video before, and you'll probably be able to tell that just by watching me. But I do it raw. I don't rehearse it or write anything down. Um, and I had more to say. A lot of people, let's say a few people rather than a few people that I've met, some have, I've also had family members with Alzheimer's, so they could be possible candidates for the disease and for this therapy, and just other people that, you know, have this belief. Some people don't want to know that they have it. And I think that's probably true about a lot of diseases or, you know, issues in our life. We don't want bad things. We don't want to know. We think it will alter how we live or, you know, be worried about it the whole time and mess up our free time and, all of that kind of stuff. And I even considered that when I considered whether or not to tell. I have two daughters in their 30s, whether to tell them, whether to tell my brothers and my sisters, or whether to just live with it, and get through it and not burden anybody else with it. And all I can say is I have to do what I would want somebody to do for me. I've always been someone who wants to know. I think information is education and is power. I mean that on even the bad things. You can't just believe that about the good things. If you believe it about the good things, you have to believe, I mean, you don't have to do anything, but I'm saying that um, I believe in God. So, and I don't want to get into a discussion about that right now, maybe another time. That could be something I would like to bring up. But I also believe that God invented scientists. I mean, he invented, people, not invented people, but, you know, he created us. And therefore, he created science as well. So, that being said, Um, about knowing it or not knowing it. Everybody has their preferences. I'm not here to judge anybody for not wanting to or for wanting to. I'm just telling you how I feel. That's what this is about, how I feel. And I've always wanted to know, would rather know than not know. You know, cancer's one, an example. If you don't know you have cancer, then you die of cancer in many cases. Um, or, if you put it off. So I'm telling you this because of the gene testing, mostly. I mean, it's hard to tell when you're aging whether your forgetfulness and this and that is just like everybody else. Everybody's forgetting things. Everybody laughs about it. Everybody says, "Oh yeah, I did that yesterday." This and that. But I'm here to tell you that with Alzheimer's, it's different. Yes, you forget things like other people forget, but it's a second later. You put the jelly on the counter, about to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from the refrigerator. You take it out, put it on the counter, and then within a second, you can't even remember what you're making. And then when it does come back to you, a second later, peanut butter, you're looking for peanut butter now and bread. You pull that out and then you look for the jelly again. These are, 3/4 is 5 seconds. And you can't find the jelly anywhere. It's not in the cupboard. It's not in the refrigerator. Finally, eventually, you see it right there on the counter. And then you don't even remember putting it out there. That's different than saying, "Oh my gosh, I pulled it out already." When you find it on the counter, you're like, "How did that get there? Did I not put it away yesterday?" I mean, you just don't know. It is different. Let me tell you, it's different. Don't ignore those symptoms when you feel like this is different than what all your peers are doing at your age, being forgetful. And don't let anybody talk you out of that if you want to know. The other thing is the gene testing was important to me because I did have family members. So, it was in the back of my mind when I had testing and I started failing in the testing more and more. It was certainly in the back of my mind. And I had incidences that happened. We won't go through all those either. But, that were really strange. Again, it's that defiance too. It's having somebody not be able to convince you. I showed up one day, I had work, Monday through Friday. I showed up at the hair appointment thinking it was Saturday and insisted that I have an appointment today. I wasn't mean or anything, but I'm insisting, yeah, I do. Just look it up, ask somebody, this kind of thing. Finally, it took like 3 people whispering behind my back, kind of, that came up to me and approached me very nicely and said, we don't have you on the books for today. We do have you on for tomorrow, or something to that effect. And I said, Sunday? Why would you have me on for Sunday? They said to me, no, this is Friday. Now, we've all probably forgotten, or done something similar like that. But it was almost unbelievable to me that it was Friday. And I was supposed to be at work. It's now like 11 o'clock and I haven't even called in to work or anything. So I jumped in my car, went to work. I actually told them that excuse. And they're all like, "Oh yeah, sure. What an excuse. You couldn't have come up with something better." I'm just saying it's different. With the gene testing, again, I'll tell you that that's important to me to share with my daughters, my sisters, my brother. They have kids, grown kids, but they have kids, and those kids have they have grandkids. And when you can now get tested, especially if you have some reason to get tested. It might even cost you out of pocket, but you can find out if you have these genes. And I wished I would have looked up what exactly they were, but I think it's a P4 gene, P3 gene, whatever, but don't listen to what I'm saying exactly. Just that you can get tested to see if you have that gene. If you have that gene, you may still never get Alzheimer's. Some people carry the gene but don't get the symptoms. I think that was the case with my dad because he didn't appear to have Alzheimer's unless maybe just that last, he was like 89 when he passed. So maybe that last year or two, it was becoming evident, but we wouldn't have known that because he was really old. But so you can carry the gene. It doesn't mean you have Alzheimer's. So what's so scary about that? Why would you not get tested so that your, family could be aware of this, so that you could prepare if you did get symptoms? I mean, why would you not get tested? I mean, being oblivious of things might make you happier, I guess. But in the end, it's not going to make you happier. Only for a period of time is it going to make you happier until it's evident. And today, we do have some medications for Alzheimer's symptoms and these infusions for, help in slowing the progress. That's what the infusions do, slow the progress of your Alzheimer's disease, which means that possibly you wouldn't die of Alzheimer's. You might die of something else if you're 65 when you find out. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just trying to explain that this was important to me, and it was important for me to let my children know, my grown children know, and my sisters, let them decide whether they want to tell their children. But maybe they want to get tested and maybe they don't. And that's their choice. And that's okay with me. I don't care what people choose. I just wanted to tell you that I think information is powerful. I wouldn't be, in this infusion having a chance to go through this infusion therapy. And, by the time I get done in 18 months, I'm pretty sure there's going to be something else, something even better, something that maybe will sustain where I'm at, which isn't too bad. I'm not that bad off. In 18 months, they're working on it. They're working on it constantly. And, this is going to put me ahead. And that's how I feel. Anyway, I'm pretty passionate about it. Maybe you could tell. I don't know if I was really very clear, but especially if you have family history, just get the gene test. Even if you're young, they do have medications or therapies out there for people that are like 40 maybe or 30 who have the gene, family history of it, and maybe no symptoms that can help prevent those symptoms. And they also have, other kind of therapies besides pharmaceutical therapy and stuff. So I think there's great progress in Alzheimer's, and I think since we live in this era, we should take advantage of those. And for you who, live in rural areas or maybe too far away, I hope that this becomes, bigger so that all the hospitals are taking it on instead of just the universities, or the Mayo clinics and stuff like that. I hope that If not, you can travel and get the therapy. Okay, that's it. This time really I'll see you on the 21st. Bye for now.